I'm not married to Dallas, so let's just clear the air on that right away. Yes, thank you. And so for those of you I haven't had an opportunity to meet, I'm the 11th Congressional District Chair. We are those 16 far west counties where North Carolina begins. And when I woke up this morning in Henderson County, I was closer to 4 state capitals than this one. And my congressional district is larger than 3 states. And it takes 3.5 hours to get from the top of it in Avery County all the way down to Cherokee County. So it's a little different landscape than what y'all have here. Now I do have the San Francisco of the South in Asheville, but beside that, it's very Republican. So it's a much different feeling for you. But Sandy, I'm so honored to be here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of hurricane update, and then I'll tell you what's going on election-wise in Western North Carolina. So you all know, just about a month ago, we had a storm of biblical proportion hit the mountains of Western North Carolina. And we've seen hurricanes hit the coast here. And when it rains like that at the coast, it's flat, and the water spreads out, it kind of goes away. But what happens in the mountains when you get 70 trillion gallons of water, mountains start to come down, and trees start to come down. We suffered over 1,000 landslides. We've lost at least 30,000 trees. We still have thousands of people who do not have electricity. But I want to thank you all for your prayers, your donations. I know many of you have collected items. You've come out to Western North Carolina. Continue to pray for us. Continue to give. This is going to be a decade rebuild for our communities out there. So let me dispel a little misinformation. FEMA is MIA in Western North Carolina. There is not one FEMA housing trailer on the ground that is housing survivors. They are housing FEMA workers. But the response from Kamala Harris offering $750 to Western North Carolinians wearing an $800 belt should disgust all of us. The fact that when that hurricane was hitting, Joe Biden was on the beach. She spends a lot of time on the beach. And she was at a high dollar fundraiser in California. It took them a week to get there. And what I say in every interview that I do, every time I have an opportunity to talk about my home in Western North Carolina, is this administration told every rural voter exactly what they think of us. Doesn't matter if you live in rural North Carolina or you live in rural Pennsylvania or rural Michigan, this administration has no use for you. And the way that they have treated us has driven people to the polls in numbers that I'm very excited to share. Because you get a bunch of angry hillbillies, they're showing up to vote. So how many people know who David Axelrod is, right? We love David Axelrod, right? So David Axelrod, Democrat operative extraordinaire, did a podcast, and he said that the liberals in Asheville will have a much easier time voting because they're smarter and wealthier than the Trump voters in Western North Carolina. So as I sat in my house with no electricity using a hotspot off an old phone, I put this comment up on Clay Travis's page. I am the GOP chair, and I assure you the God-fearing, gun-toting, MAGA mountain deplorables will crawl over hurricane debris, down mountainsides, and across roads that no longer exist to vote for Donald Trump. So 274,000 people liked my tweet, and it got me on the Clay and Buck show, which was very cool. Yeah, we like I heard you. Okay, how did I sound? Was I good? Yes. Okay, excellent. Don't tell me if I'm bad. Just tell me it's just great. What we're seeing happen in Western North Carolina is really incredible. As of Saturday, the close of polls on Saturday, because we only have one county that votes on Sunday, because we are in the Bible Belt, we don't vote on Sundays in Western North Carolina. 207,324 voters. That's the 5th largest voter turnout of all 14 congressional districts. Republicans are up 10,000 voters over the Democrats. And we are up 62,000 overall voters since 2016 with 10 fewer early voting sites. So We are absolutely doing whatever it takes to get to the polls. So like our next auditor said, you are challenged, and it needs to be at least 10 people. And I would challenge you not to just talk to them, you need to get them to the polls, because what we are seeing in Western North Carolina, your neighbors there are taking ATVs down mountainsides to get to the polls. These are people who lost their homes, their cars, members of their family. And they are helping their neighbor, the true North Carolinian spirit that we all see. And I'll tell you, the pictures cannot do justice to the devastation there. It just simply cannot. But we have to work that much harder to get to the polls. And 207,000 of us have done it. So if you haven't been to the polls, I'm not going to publicly shame you, but I'm kind of publicly shaming you. Get your family to the polls and get other people to the polls and remind them how much harder it is for people on the western part of this state to get there, and they're doing it. Join us, fight with us, and fight for us, because without Donald Trump, we're seeing exactly where we're getting, and it will be worse, as we all know. So I'll leave you with this final thought. About a few weeks before the hurricane hit, as you look at the numbers, and I'm kind of a data nerd, I thought that this election would be determined by a few precincts in Omaha, Nebraska, because people in Nebraska do weird things with their electoral votes. So I thought they're going to be the ones that decide. I can stand here before you and tell you this. The people of the 11th Congressional District will decide who the next president is, and it will be Donald J. Trump. So thank you again for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here. Sandy, thank you for an amazing club, and thank you again. Continue your prayers for us in Western North Carolina.